What's up YouTube, it's Chris and welcome back to another weapon tier list. This time around we're doing best weapons against Dollmaster. We already covered Wart and Werewolf, so if you want to watch those videos, they're gonna be linked down below. Before we start, let me just say what I always say. I don't think any of the weapons in the game is bad. I just think they function in a certain way, which will make them better against particular monsters. They all have their good and bad sides, which makes them unique. So I decided to make this series of videos just to help you figure out which weapons you should craft in the beginning and figure out which weapons are gonna be the best for you in certain situations. I will share my own opinions and reasons behind every placement, but at the end of the day, it is my tier list, and that doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be somebody else's tier list. So please take this with a grain of salt. And one final thing before we start, if you guys like what I do, if you guys enjoyed the videos, I would highly appreciate if you smash the like button below, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell. All that being said, let's begin. Now, the previous tier lists were basically solo queue and team play, because the weapons and where you're going to be placing them will vary depending in which situation you are in. If you play solo, the strength of some weapons against certain monsters will change. But with Dollmaster, it's not as simple as saying, oh, we got 4 stack, we have a pre-made team, or I'm playing solo. Because with Dollmaster, you have Dollmaster's body and you have dolls. So I kind of have to make 3 different tier lists. So let me just explain. I already have pre-made 2 of them because it was pretty hard to decide where I want to place the weapons. So in the first one, I covered Dollmaster, his body, and I will explain in which situations. Then I made a second one, which is Dollmaster's dolls. And then the third one, we're just kind of gonna combine the 2 and try to find the best weapons in solo queue against both, if that makes sense. So let's start off with the Dollmaster. The first ones are pretty simple. I and RC Flower are basically the same weapon. They do function a little bit differently. How long it takes you to charge them up, get them up and running, how fast they travel, how well you can recognize the sound while you're controlling them, and the final kill. The eye is just basically a one-shot. You just have to make contact with the monster. And RC Flyer you still have to shoot, but it does have a solid range and whatnot. It can be destroyed though. So that the main reason why RC Flyer is right behind the eye is just because it is kind of harder to actually get that kill off, because monster can still hide behind the objects and go for the kill on the RC Flyer. But this was a fairly simple decision. If you're talking about Dollmaster who's possessing a doll and you're trying to catch him off guard, like if he has TP available, you will, against a really good Dollmaster, you will have only a couple of seconds, even less. You will maybe have like 2 seconds, 1 second to actually finish him off before he reacts. So anything that can catch him off guard really fast is going to be best. Therefore the Eye and the RC Flyer, because they travel fast, and if you know exactly where his body is, he might not have time to react. It's kind of similar with Slingshot and Firebomb. These are high-range weapons that you can throw technically all the way across the map. Of course, Dollmaster will try to hide behind corners and in spots where you cannot reach him from those sides, but sometimes he doesn't have an option. So having weapons where you can catch him off guard, where he cannot react really, plus even if he does know you're around, but he doesn't know exactly where you are, he is kind of slow compared to the other monsters, so weapons like Slingshot and Firebomb can certainly catch him off guard even when he's controlling his main body. Now for the good section. These are all still really good and viable weapons to kill Dollmaster. I don't think any of the weapon is actually going to be bad against Dollmaster's body, because his body without TP is powerless. It's a slow monster that doesn't have anything to work with. So as long as he doesn't have TP, all of these weapons are actually going to categorize as great. But the reason why they're good is because if he does have TP, he will have time to react. If he hides behind an object, he can TP away, no matter if you are attacking with a cross, flamethrower, a sword, solar flare, etc. But these are all still going to be really good weapons to go for his main body, because you can react at the end of the day. If he goes for an attack, half of them are kite weapons, second half have high range, so you don't have to necessarily get really close to him, and it's gonna be really hard for him to land a hit on you with his main body if you do have those weapons. Okay, this is my bad. Enigma is supposed to be under good. The only reason why ray gun is categorized as okay, because it is kind of weaker than all the other weapons, and I feel like it can be maneuvered. Even with Dollmaster's body, I feel like they know the limitation of the ray gun, and if they can maneuver around it, it's a pretty simple hit. So yeah, I've been explaining this in the previous videos, and I'm gonna make a separate video on why I think ray gun does need some love. It does deserve a buff, but as I said, we're gonna keep that for another video. Let's jump to the next one. Dollmaster's dolls. Now this is a bit more tricky and complicated, because Dollmaster's dolls do have a leap and they have such a small hitbox. So something like Cross will actually be perfect against dolls, because they will try to, they have to get in a certain range of you to manage to get a hit. And as we already discussed this in all of the previous videos, Cross is kind of busted, and in low range is almost unbeatable. So even if the doll manages to leap on you, if you do have a solid amount of distance, you will kill it off fairly fast, because dolls do have less life than monster's main body or any other monster. It will take you less charges to kill it, which means less time as well. So you don't necessarily need to kite for as long or need to have the same amount of distance. And yeah, that kind of explains why Cross is actually a perfect weapon against dolls. It has a really broken hitbox, it works perfectly in low range, and the dolls will try to constantly get in the low range within you, and reaction speed with the Cross can be fantastic just because of how fast it fires. Now on the other hand, Staff and Solar Flare are not really kite weapons, or they don't really have a massive hitbox. Solar Flare actually kind of does, and I think I'm again gonna move Enigma here. But sometimes I don't know what it is about Enigma, but it feels slower than Staff. I don't know why, and it feels like the hitbox is not the same. Like it has a weaker hitbox, more flawed, if that makes sense. Like certain railings or doorways might block Enigma, but they will not block Staff. I don't know how to explain it, but let's, for the sake of the argument, I'm just gonna place it here. These are all auto-aim weapons, and not only that, they're high-range weapons. Dolls have to keep distance against you, and they only have 30 seconds of runtime. Then the Dollmaster will have to switch to another doll, or he will have to go back to his main body. So you can technically, even if you don't kill the doll, these weapons are all perfect for zoning. Let's say for Solar Flare, yes, the doll can stare at the Solar Flare and deplete it slowly, but at the same time you're wasting his time. You can just move away, set up the Solar Flare again. He has to move closer to start depleting it. He loses time, you gain distance, your team gets time for crafting weapons and stuff, so it's actually perfect. Plus you can defend your teammates on stations against dolls. Now as for Firebomb, Flamethrower and Shock Sphere, this is a bit trickier than the previous weapons, just because I feel like each of them has a flaw against dolls. Firebomb is great for zoning away the dolls, it's great for killing them, but it still takes time to actually throw it, and you also have to throw it in a certain spot, because you might throw it at the doll, and the doll can just sleep. By the time the Firebomb lands, he will already be on your body. Flamethrower, easy to maneuver around with a doll. It's really hard to hit sometimes, but with the range mod you can catch it off guard and whatnot, so it's still a good viable weapon. As for Shock Sphere, I think it's kind of obvious, fairly easy to kill the doll with the Shock Sphere and catch up to it, but at the same time Shock Sphere does need time to charge up, so the doll might just sleep and get a hit of you. Plus, at the end of the day, a lot of doll masters are willing to kill their own doll just to eat up the Shock Sphere, so that also goes against you, because you will be losing a weapon, but at the end of the day it might work against him as well, because if somebody else is there with a weapon next to his body, they can just finish him off once he's stunned. Actually, I don't know why I did this. Ray gun is supposed to go after Sword. Sword and Ray gun, really easy to maneuver around, but they do have a lot of shots, so as long as you know what you're doing, like, so if you're really skilled with the Cursed Sword, you can always predict hits. Like, let's say you know when the doll is gonna come around the corner. If you slash at the exact same time, same as with Ward, you can slow down his leap, You can zone him away. Like if you do V slashes, if you know how to do V slashes well, you can again zone the doll. With the ray gun per se, you have a modification for triple shot, which actually makes it a lot easier to kill the doll. With like only one hit, it feels almost impossible to land 9 hits in a row. Sometimes like for kiting a little bit, buying a little bit of time, yeah, you can land 1 or 2 hits, but like 9 in a row, I don't know. It would be definitely categorized as bad, as probably the worst weapon if you didn't have that triple shot mod. And now for the bad category. I think this one is pretty self-explanatory. All of these weapons are hard to use against dolls, really hard. Slingshot, you have to be really precise, you have to predict. The doll can leap around it, it can simply cut out the attack from you, it can wait it out. It's just like such an imperfect weapon against dolls, and rarely often you will get a direct hit on the Dollmaster's doll if he doesn't want you to hit, if you know what I mean. If he really wants to juke it, 95% of the time he will do it. And you only have 2 shots. As for the eye, I think I can go above. Like, I can go anywhere between bad and okay, just because sometimes you will still be able to, like, if you gain enough distance from the doll and you manage to start charging it up, he whiffs or whatever, you will be able to kill the doll. RC Flyer, on the other hand, is really bad. If he's chasing your body, there is no way in hell you will be able to charge up. You will get up the RC Flyer in the air and then kill the doll off without him actually hitting your body before that happens. It's not gonna happen. Of course, as I said, if you're like launching an eye or the RC Flyer from the other side of the map, then yeah, they're fantastic weapons against dolls. But at the same time, again, Dollmaster can react. If he hears the eye, he can just drop the doll or switch it up. With the RC Flyer, kind of similar thing. It's complicated. I will still rather put them at bad because we're like accounting, hey, he's chasing my main body, there's nobody to help here. I just need a weapon to protect myself. Which ones are going to be the best? Now, I gave you 2 separate tier lists. One is for Dollmaster, and second one is for his dolls. And this is both gonna apply for solo queue and team play, but more for solo queue, so you know what to craft in certain situations. If you see your team needs doll kill weapons, go for crosses or something of that sort. If you need a Dollmaster kill weapon, go for an eye or an RC Flyer. And now the last tier list is gonna be kind of the trickiest, because this is gonna be for a full-on pre-made team, and I'm just gonna try to explain what you should generally craft and what not, and why. So let's start it off with an obvious one, cross. If you have a crucifier mod on and you already got that out of the way, this is gonna be your key to victory. Just getting as many crosses as possible all the time so you can defend everybody else while they're crafting, while they're trying to go for the main body. You're kind of gonna be like a shield for your team. You're gonna be the defense against the little army that Dollmaster controls. And cross is the best way to go about it. If you can't craft cross, if he's guarding holy stations, and this is gonna happen a lot of times, like if you're playing against a really good Dollmaster, he will know to constantly have dolls on the holy stations, especially once that stigma is out. Believe it or not, Dollmasters, really good Dollmasters, will guard holy stations more once they're done because of the crucifier mod. As I said, if you don't have that option now, he's guarding holy stations constantly, you go for it, he possesses a doll almost instantly. Even 32-second craft time is not gonna help you all that much. So the second best option in my own opinion is gonna be Solar Flare. Because it's an auto aim, you can place it in a certain spot, you don't even have to be there. So it's a really good viable weapon. It's probably gonna be the best against dolls right after cross. There's one more thing that I forgot to mention about cross, because we're doing this as a complete tier list against Dollmaster, which also implies that you have to fight his main body. Why cross is good is because you can react in any sort of way. Like, as we said, Dollmaster is sluggish, and even if he has TP and he tries to go for a crazy TP behind your back, you can still react. Cross is a great weapon for reaction. Doesn't matter what he does. If you're close to his body, he possesses a doll, TPs next to you, behind you, or simply goes for the hit with his main body from the direction you can see him, the cross is gonna be your best bet. Solar Flare is also right there, because you can place it in one spot. If you have the moving Solar Flare modification, you can just place it in the spot further away from his body if you know where it is, like you know the room where the his body is. You place it further away from him. He's either gonna TP away or behind you or whatever. You can always go to that solar flare to defend yourself, or you can reset it up, or you can just let it go to his main body by itself, just slowly float around and then kill him off. These two weapons work great in both scenarios. Dollmaster, attack, defense, doesn't matter. Next up, I'm gonna have to play staff because it's kind of similar. You don't really have kiting potential, but your reaction speed with the staff can be good. It has great range against both Dollmaster's dolls and his main body. It's gonna work perfectly in a lot of scenarios, but this is mostly if you don't have the crucifier mode, or if you're going for a full-on kill while you still don't have cross available. Let's say you cannot craft it, and you want that holistic mod out of the way. I would definitely say that the staff will work great because you will be able to react to both his main body and dolls. This time around, we're gonna be using good category a little bit differently. Since we already categorized what's great, I'm just gonna explain what great is in this sense. It will not matter if you're in a solo situation where you're trying to pressure the body, defend yourself, if you're against Dollmaster or his dolls, or if you're currently attacking with your team or defending your team, or whatever. They're gonna be perfect in almost every case scenario. Good will be the weapons which will work great against Dollmaster or his dolls with your team. Almost never solo. So I'm just gonna go with the obvious ones again here, which is gonna be the Eye and the RC Flyer first, because as we said, they're kind of similar weapons, they work in a certain way, with information your team provides. If you're in a pre-made team and somebody constantly pings you their location, you can immensely pressure their body with these two weapons. You don't really need to defend yourself all that much, because you can leave the body in a safe spot and just go for the main body. If he TPs, somebody else will say, hey, he TP'd close to me, he's hiding his body right here, keeps on pinging, then you go for his main body again, he cannot pressure a team, or he can't use the dolls. You're gonna be giving him a real hard time, and that's the whole point. But these weapons will, at the end of the day, kind of depend on your teammates more than on yourself. Next up, we have Firebomb and Slingshot. We already explained why these work so great against Dollmaster's main body, and if you're playing in a really well-coordinated pre-made team, they will probably guard you with some weapons and try to push for the main body. So if you have like two crosses around yourself and you have a Firebomb in your hand, I feel like you're gonna go for a fairly easy kill at this point, because the pressure will be immense on himself. Even if he tries to go for a TP, you can try to pressure his body again. And you can always wait for somebody to stun the Dollmaster, and before he gets out of the stun, you can still land a kill, because as we said, these are high range weapons. You don't necessarily need to approach him really close. You can still stay like 20, 30, 40 meters away from him, as long as you have a clear shot. And in the last spot, in the good category, I'm just gonna place Shock Sphere. I feel like it's still a really good weapon against his main body and the dolls, and if you have a team, the best thing about Shock Sphere is gonna be simply the speed at which you can craft it, at which you can move around the map, so you don't necessarily need to stay on the station and can stay clear of the dolls. And at the end of the day, when you try to go for that kill on the main body, you're pretty speedy. So if they manage to land a stun, you can get there pretty fast. Simple. Now the weapons that I kind of stay clear of when I'm playing against Dollmaster in a 4-stack are Sword, Flamethrower, Enigma, and Raygun. Not because I don't think they're viable, and not because I don't think they will be useful, just because you have better options. As we already said, you have weapons that are gonna be great in all kinds of scenarios. When you're attacking solo or defending solo, or when you're attacking with your teammates, defending them, or if you need good kill weapons where your teammates are gonna surround you and protect you. And then you just simply have weapons that don't seem worth crafting, if you know what I mean. Like, why would I go for a Flamethrower, which is still a decent doll kill weapon and a Dollmaster kill weapon, or I could just simply go for a Solar Flare, which will do all the same stuff, but a little bit better. Okay, there are definitely scenarios where the Flamethrower will work better, but as we said, if you're in a pre-made team, most of the time Solar Flare will do a better job. Or maybe, why would I go for a Raygun to kill the dolls or to go kill his main body when I can just go for the RC for the kill, or if I need a stun on the dolls, I can just go for the cross. It wouldn't really make sense, would it? And that's my final approach on what I craft and why against Dollmaster in certain situations. I had to break it down in 3 different tier lists so you guys can understand my thought processing behind it. First off, we have Dollmaster's main body in solo queue. Then we have dolls in solo queue. And then the final tier list, which is not even a tier list, but you basically have a section which is overall great in every scenario. Good is mostly combining weapons with great. Oh, we work as a team, we're going for kills. These weapons are gonna be working the best against his main body. And then the weapons that are okay, but they're just not worth crafting most of the time. One last time, this is my tier list and how I approach things. I don't think necessarily this is going to be true for everybody, but I do want to hear your opinion. So if you do write something down, please don't attack me on, oh, this is completely wrong, because as I said, this is just my take on it. It might be wrong for you, but it's right for me. But I do want to hear what you guys think. So if you have anything to add, anything you disagree with, anything you agree with and want to point out, or you just want to ask questions or talk about it further on, comment section is wide open, use it as you will. I can't make any more weapon tier list against monsters because simply this is all we have now. Like until they make new monsters or they make some balance changes to either monsters or weapons, I cannot do anything new regarding this. So what I'm trying to say here is if you guys have any ideas for the future videos and what you would like to see me make, discuss, or maybe explain, let me know down below. And if you guys find the videos enjoyable and don't want to miss out on any future ones that I will be making, please consider smashing the like button below, subscribing and turning on the notification bell. All that being said, wishing you all a beautiful evening and I guess I'll see you in the next one. See ya.